All right, before getting into the video, I want to give a disclaimer at the beginning here and point out that I could be making all of this up. Everything that I'm going to get into in this video could be things that I'm just seeing that aren't really there. But I felt like there was enough here to do a video on it and explore it, at least in a hypothetical fashion, in the way that you might have a hypothesis before testing it. And you guys, the audience, are the testing here. You'll have to let me know if I'm completely full of it or not. But I felt inspired to have a hypothesis in that way, given what we're going to be going over, because it's a lot of scientific material. In any event, as you can see here up on the screen, I'm going to be talking about dark matter and Donald Trump. And my speculative hypothesis here is that there's some relationship in all of the media between dark matter and Donald Trump. And I elaborated a little further below saying Donald Trump is 9/11 personified, which I've gone into in all of the videos on Donald Trump and the Eclipse and how he relates to 9/11 along those lines. Or in other words, the symbolic, quote-unquote, dark matter, invisible Twin Towers. This would be another way to view him being 9/11 personified, as the symbolic, invisible dark matter. In this context, it would be Donald Trump as the personification of those two towers in a sort of subconscious, invisible way, is injected into the real world political system and just the real world in general, which produces a destruction similar to the ritual sacrifice that took place with the two towers in New York on 9/11. But we'll get further into all of that as I go through this. First, as I needed to do, let's read up on what these scientists are saying dark matter is to get a better idea of how this could be a metaphor in the way that I am describing it. To that end, this is from a Twitter account, Physics in History, that was just posted today. Imagine that the universe is a cake, a very big cake with many layers and flavors. The cake is expanding because it is being baked in an oven that keeps getting hotter. Now, the part of the cake that we can see and taste is made of ordinary ingredients like flour, sugar, eggs, butter, etc. This is what we call normal matter, and it makes up only about 5% of the cake. The rest of the cake is made of something else, something that we can't see or taste, but we know it's there because it affects how the cake rises and expands. One of these invisible ingredients is dark matter. Dark matter is like a glue that holds the cake together. It has gravity, but it doesn't interact with light or normal matter. It makes up about 25% of the cake. Without dark matter, the cake would fall apart because the normal matter would not have enough gravity to stick together. Dark matter helps to form the structure of the cake, like the layers and the swirls. Another invisible ingredient is dark energy. Dark energy is like a gas that fills the spaces between the cake. It has negative pressure, which means it pushes things away from each other. It makes up about 70% of the cake. Dark energy is the reason why the cake is expanding faster and faster, because it overcomes the gravity of dark matter and normal matter as well. Dark energy makes the cake fluffy and airy, but also unpredictable and unstable. Hopefully you know a little bit about what mainstream scientists and astronomers say about what they think our universe and space might be right now. In which case, this metaphor of the cake and the universe should make a little bit of sense, at least what they're trying to say about it. You can turn on the oven light and look at the cake and see it cooking in the oven, which is essentially what human beings are doing with telescopes out into space. They're observing the cake as it's being baked in this ever-expanding universe that's getting hotter and hotter, and that's where the ideas of dark matter and dark energy come into play, because they see effects on the matter that we can see that are not explainable unless there is something else there doing it that we just can't see for whatever reason. But reading on here, all the normal visible matter we can see in the universe, planets, stars, galaxies, etc., accounts for just 5% of its total content. The rest is composed of dark energy, the name given to the force that appears to be accelerating the rate of the expansion of the universe, and dark matter, which is known to exist but which cannot be observed directly. Dark energy and dark matter are labeled dark, quote-unquote, partly to reflect our ignorance about their true nature. Dark matter does not interact with electromagnetism, and therefore it is impossible to see, quote-unquote. But it does interact with gravity just like all normal matter does, so in theory we can observe its effects on the matter that we can see. Unfortunately, this is the best I can do. I can only copy and paste this stuff from articles and read it to you. I don't have any insight into this kind of stuff on my own. I'm not an astronomer. I'm terrible at math. I can't even begin to understand the equations that go into all of this stuff. So at a certain point, I have to extend a little bit of faith and assume that at least some of it is legitimate. But that kind of is neither here nor there, the legitimacy of it, in terms of the metaphorical, symbolic role that it's playing in the media as it is presented to us, in the context of the story that they're trying to tell us through it. Or not overtly trying to tell us, but subconsciously trying to infuse into us. But anyways, let's get into all of this stuff. This is from an article in the Washington Post, February 1st, 2017. Trump's team has detected the dark matter of government regulation, meaning you ain't seen nothing yet. And this is kind of the first headline that associates Trump with dark matter. Maybe there are some going back further. I didn't find any. This was the first one that I found in terms of the timeline. And there's an interesting couple paragraphs down here. It's regulatory dark matter, CEI's Clyde Wayne Cruz Jr. wrote. Thousands of executive branch and federal agency proclamations and issuances, including memos, guidance documents, bulletins, circulars, and announcements with practical regulatory effect. Why dark matter? Astrophysicists, he wrote, have concluded that ordinary visible matter, the sun, the moon, the planets, the Milky Way, the multitude of galaxies beyond our own, make up only a tiny fraction of the universe, he wrote, less than 5%. Dark matter and dark energy make up the rest. Here on Earth in the United States, there is also regulatory dark matter that is hard to detect, much less measure. But the Trump administration has detected it. And that's just a really fascinating sentence that was put in this article. And hopefully by the end, I will make you see why that's an incredible sentence to be written for all to see. But you get the idea, right? You could describe a lot of things as dark matter if they're not easily found or easily visible. You could say, oh yeah, this is kind of our version of dark energy and dark matter. These forces that are interacting in a way that we know it's there, we can observe the effects, but we can't really prove it or see it in an easy way. But as early as February 1st, 2017, they have associated Donald Trump with dark matter. Then we go to Randy Newman, who released an album titled Dark Matter, and he released this album on August 4th, 2017, which of course is 17 days before the August 21st Great American Eclipse. Going back to the other videos on Donald Trump, we know how important the number 17 is to him. Elected in 2017, Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. The 17 minutes, as I said, between the plane strikes on the Twin Towers. There's a lot of 17 surrounding Donald Trump, and it just so happens that this album titled Dark Matter, was released 17 days before the first leg of the Great American Eclipse on August 21st, 2017, which of course was the first year of Donald Trump's presidency. And just a couple months later, on October 28th, 2017, the very first QAnon post was made on 4chan. And the only really interesting note about the songs on this Dark Matter album is that there's a song titled Putin. And we all know how they have associated Trump with Russia and have made these claims ever since he started running for president that he was some kind of secret Russian agent. And they could make that narrative stick for a wide variety of reasons, because he does have certain business ties with Russians and he has a certain track record with Russia and Putin. And then you have the fact that all of this conspiracy theory information on the internet that has been in the underground scene for a long time was promoted by outlets like RT or Russia Today, which established this link between conspiracy theories and Russia, which then made it very easy to further associate Donald Trump as the conspiracy theorist president with Russia. And that's how the mainstream news is able to truthfully say, oh, hey, we have this disinformation that Donald Trump is helping to promote that is coming from foreign entities. And we're in danger from this disinformation and misinformation, and we need to do something about it, like censor free speech or something along those lines. So very interesting that this Randy Newman Dark Matter album has a song titled Putin, given that it was released on August 4th, 2017, in the context of all of this stuff with Donald Trump in 2017 and just 17 in general. And not leaving out the Matthew Perry potential ritual sacrifice for Donald Trump connection, where the 911 call was made at 4:07 p.m. and then he was officially pronounced dead at 4:17 p.m. So you have that 47 in there as well as the 17 that might tie into some kind of energetic sacrifice for Donald Trump's legitimacy, given the fact that it happened on October 28th during a lunar eclipse, which was the same day in 2017 that QAnon posted, just a couple months after the Great American Eclipse, the total solar eclipse on August 21st. And then you add the fact that Matthew Perry's funeral had that song where the music video was a total solar eclipse. I promise I won't repeat every video I've already done in the next one, but I gotta get into it a little bit just to fully create the picture that's being drawn here with all of this information. This is another article from Forbes talking about the same thing. Here's what Donald Trump and Congress should do about regulatory dark matter. This is from March 14th, 2017. Where there is this paragraph down here, the Trump administration has invoked deconstruction of the administrative state. If that's the plan, dark matter should be the main target. And hopefully you see the interesting phrasing there where they say deconstruction of the administrative state in the context of Trump and dark matter, as that relates to his role as the embodiment of the 9/11 ritual in New York City. He is the personification of that first ritual that started the whole thing, and he is the culmination of it. In the form of dark matter. He's a Trojan horse in that way. That would be another way to describe it. A Trojan horse of dark energy that is invisible to almost everyone. No one really understands or can see what his purpose truly is and was in the past. But okay, we have these early associations between Trump and dark matter in the mainstream news. And that Randy Newman album is released August 4th, 2017, titled Dark Matter. Then we have the fact that Pearl Jam is going to be releasing a new album titled Dark Matter on April 19th, 2024. And that is 11 days after the April 8th Great American Eclipse. So let's stop and think about this for a second. It just so happens coincidentally that there is an album released 17 days before the first eclipse in the Great American Eclipse on August 21st, 2017. And then there is a second album titled Dark Matter released 11 days after the April 8th, 2024 Great American Eclipse. You have these two total solar eclipses making an X over the United States of America, and they are bookended in the media by two Dark Matter albums. One that's 17 days before, and then the other that's 11 days after. As if one was designed to come out right before the eclipses started officially, and then one was designed to come out right after they officially ended. Obviously, that's not how eclipses work. The energy permeates everything well before and well after. But symbolically, this is very interesting to have out there. The fact that there were two Dark Matter albums released very closely in proximity to these two Great American Eclipses, which are very much associated with Donald Trump. And hopefully you're starting to see this association then between Trump and Dark Matter. We might be onto something here. I don't know. Like I said, I could be making all this up, but let's keep going. We'll find out. Along those lines, this is the promotional material that Pearl Jam released for the album, and I just want to show you this in case you haven't seen it. And that's pretty much it. And then I took a screenshot of that somewhere. At least I thought I did. Ah, here it is. That maybe gives it a more clear view. But you got to see the beginning to really get an idea of how they're kind of showing something cosmic. In the sense that you would think of dark matter and dark energy, where there's this implosion and kind of birth of a star or energy of some type. And this imagery is really interesting. I mean, you could go in all kinds of different directions. I brought up the Matthew Perry thing, and I don't know why, but this really looks similar to the bat signal that Batman uses. It kind of has a little bit of resonance along those lines. But then more broadly, it also has resonance to magnetism and just kind of where you have the plane and then the two sort of toroidal fields that extend out in each direction from the center. This is kind of another version with some cliff notes on it where you can see the two magnetic vortices and imagine that in the context of not only the way that Earth might be functioning, where Earth is kind of the center still point of these magnetic fields, but you can also kind of get that similar idea from this imagery here. I don't know, at the same time I think of a spider too when I see this, which I don't know, but there's all kinds of things going on is my point with an image like this. And I'm kind of past my prime in terms of analyzing symbolism. I don't really do it a lot anymore, so I'm a little rusty, but that was just kind of what initially came to mind when I saw this album cover. Which is less important in the context of this video than the fact that it's titled Dark Matter. So going back here, Randy Newman releases Dark Matter August 4th, 2017, 17 days before the August 21st Great American Eclipse. Pearl Jam releases Dark Matter April 19th, 2024, 11 days after the April 8th Great American Eclipse. as I say here, twin dark matter symmetry with the Great American Eclipse. Also twinned, quote unquote, by the influence of 9/11 Gemini man moonchild Donald Trump and his presidential campaigns. I say campaigns because we don't know if he's actually going to win in 2024. But yes, his presidential campaigns are bookended by these dark matter album releases. At the same time that they're bookended by the two, quote unquote, Great American Eclipses. Okay, then we have the Dark Tower, which was released in America on August 4th, 2017. And remember, August 4th, 2017 was the same day that Randy Newman released the Dark Matter album. So on the same day that Randy Newman releases that album, we have the theatrical release in America of The Dark Tower. And then it premiered a little bit before that on July 31st, 2017 in New York City. So you have The Dark Tower premiering in New York City in 2017, and then its theatrical release across the country is on August 4th, the same day that Randy Newman's Dark Matter album was released. And for those of you who don't know, the plot of The Dark Tower surrounds this tower that is a gate to a parallel or quote-unquote twin reality. And think about that in the context of the Twin Towers in New York City that were destroyed, and then One World Trade Center was raised in its place. Symbolically, the gate or portal to a new parallel reality that they wanted to build out of that ritual. And then by deduction, Donald Trump, as the representation or embodiment of that 9/11 ritual in a person, the metaphorical world order or the metaphorical One World Trade Center will emerge from Donald Trump's ritual influence within the world and the American political system in particular. Especially via the MAGA QAnon movement that spawned from him and is being spread all over the world, not just in the United States of America, as the representation of domestic terrorism, this pro-nationalist problem that needs to be dealt with. Do you see how he is the twin of 9/11 in that context? He's the invisible twin of the 9/11 ritual destruction of those two towers in New York City, and the one that was raised in its place. He's the dark matter and dark energy that is injected into the system as a symbol, a twin of that event, symbolically encompassing dark matter and dark energy that is invisible to everyone else. But this ritual is being done through him at the same time, even though no one can see it. He is the Dark Tower in that sense. He's the dark One World Trade Center, the inversion of it, the inversion of what came out of those destroyed two towers. If you get into the dimensions of One World Trade Center, it's an inverted rainbow bridge. And they even have that on the imagery of the poster here, where the Dark Tower is this inverted building that's upside down, which is getting at the idea of this parallel or twin reality. And I think that is why the two films that Donald Trump is the most associated with are Donnie Darko and Back to the Future, because Donnie Darko has that parallel twin reality plot, and Back to the Future has a similar parallel timeline plot. Because Donald Trump is the parallel twin of 9/11. And that's why he's so closely associated with those films and the 9/11 ritual itself. He's the Dark Tower, representing the gate or portal to the New World Order, or the dark energy and dark matter that is invisible, that we can't see, that might as well be in a parallel dimension, influencing us. And that goes back to that fresco at the Bank of America headquarters in Charlotte, where he's in the different dimension and all the people are pointing at him, but then there's all the other stuff going on that they aren't looking at all. So then on April 10th, 2019, this article came out. Here's another image of a black hole, and this is Donald Trump's eye. And you got to really take a second and look at this because it's incredible, where his eye, first of all, really looks like an eclipse. I mean, you can barely see anything except the pupil. It looks like, through optical illusion, as if it's only the pupil and there's nothing else there. And I've gone into that in a really old blog post that has a thick layer of dust on it now. But the idea that eyes are black holes, it's a metaphorical concept that maybe even astronomers borrowed, where the event horizon represents that space where nothing, not even light, can escape it. And that's sort of how your eyes are functioning too. When it reaches that black hole, not even light can escape it. But in this image, it really gives you that impression because you can't see any of the iris. And then on top of that, you have this light from the press that's reflected, where it gives you that kind of sun imagery within the eclipse, right? And the people in the background are the representation of the people who can't see in the context of all this. His pupil is blocking them out. It's the dark energy, the dark matter. Especially in the context of the total solar eclipses that are associated with Donald Trump. And then that ties it right back into the quantum leap association, where you have this jump in consciousness that all of this represents. The combination of these rituals represent a jump in our consciousness, meaning they're going to send it somewhere else from where it was as a part of this ritual. Anyways, it just so happens that on the same day that the first ever image of a black hole came through, allegedly from 55 billion years ago, an AP photographer captured this photo of Donald Trump's eye on the same day that that first picture of a black hole was essentially discovered. What are the odds of that? In the context of this association between dark matter, dark energy, and Donald Trump. Now you have this association in the context of that with his eye and black holes. And black holes are known to distort time. Again, giving that resonance to Donald Trump and time travel and Operation Warp Speed and all of the media that's associated with him and time travel. Back to the Future, Donnie Darko, Quantum Leap. All of it is pointing to our own awareness, and especially the collective awareness that is being transported somewhere else via this process, or shaped in some way, influenced, however you want to describe the effect of sorcery, in a subconscious, sublime manner. Okay, then we have David Bowie releases Black Star on January 8th, 2016, at age 69. And remember the Masonic tracing boards where they have the 6 and 9 on top of the arch all of the time? Everything that David Bowie did was symbolic, and there are people who have done research along those lines in a way that I've never done and is way better than anything that I would come up with if I went into it. So I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm not even going to get into it because that's all out there if you want to find it. But for our purposes here, Black Star, the music video, had a lot of eclipse imagery, and I put very obviously mind control because it's really creepy, and I was very uncomfortable when I watched it. And whenever I watch something like that, it's always on mute. I don't let any of those sound waves into my ears if I can help it. And just watching it, though, it's creepy. And I know there was subconscious sorcery at work, and it just bothered me. So I wouldn't recommend you go do that, but trust me when I say there's eclipse imagery in that video. And it's just interesting to me with all of this dark matter, dark energy, dark tower stuff going on. Then you have sort of this symbolic ritual in David Bowie's last album right before these two eclipses and Donald Trump's ascendancy to the throne, as it were. Meaning I just included it here in case it was the symbolic start of the ritual, the black star. And I get into that because Gary Lockman wrote a book with the title Dark Star Rising, Magic and Power in the Age of Trump, released May 29th, 2018, which gets into all kinds of stuff along quote-unquote occult lines as it relates to Donald Trump. I just thought that was a very interesting title, Dark Star Rising, in the context David Bowie's Black Star. And then there was another book that I found when I was researching all of this titled Dark Towers, Deutsche Bank, Donald Trump, and an Epic Trail of Destruction, released February 18, 2020. And just think about this. Dark Towers, first of all, we already have that 2017 film, The Dark Tower, and its association to Donald Trump through the Randy Newman Dark Matter album and the close proximity to the first Great American Eclipse, August 21st, 2017. And then you have it twinned or turned into a plural form, Dark Towers, in the title of this book, associating Donald Trump with Dark Towers, associating Donald Trump in terms of the invisible dark matter, dark energy towers that he symbolically represents as the embodiment of that 9/11 ritual. And this book is covering the collapse of a bank and the trail of destruction that it left, which echoes what Trump is being used for in this ritual, the trail of destruction. Okay, then we have Cat Williams gave an interview with Shannon Sharpe that quote-unquote broke the internet. You can hear him referring to this all the time when he references the interview now. Cat Williams says, "Oh, I broke the internet," which has some tie-in to Leave the World Behind, right? Cyber attack, breaking the internet. Anyways, he gave that interview right at the beginning of 2024, and his 2024 tour just so happens to be the Dark Matter Tour. I have a picture of it right here. Cat Williams, the Dark Matter Tour. And he's got the 6 and the 9 here, which they would just say is a representation of the galaxy. But, you know, there are always multiple layers to these things. Then we have Jennifer Connelly, who, like David Bowie, has this whole thing with her and her film roles and everything that she symbolizes, which I likewise won't get into because there's so much of that. But she will star in a TV series called Dark Matter, which will be released May 8th, 2024, where a man is abducted into an alternate version of his life, or his twin life, quote unquote, in a twin, quote unquote, parallel reality. What are the odds that Dark Matter would have that plot in the context of everything that I've gone over so far about Dark Matter and its association to Trump and twins or parallel realities? And just incidentally, I wouldn't read too much into this, but Joel Edgerton was also in the film Black Mass, which has its own kind of symbolic representation as it relates to all of this stuff, what really is going on in the media, a black mass of sorts. But he played a character in this movie, and his name was John Connolly. So he plays John Connolly in Black Mass, which has resonance to black matter and dark energy, right? Black mass in terms of astronomy. And then he's in Dark Matter with Jennifer Connelly, right? Very interesting. And then I just had another search for Dark Matter. There's all kinds of other little projects that were out there, but nothing mainstream like Dark Matter with Jennifer Connelly and Joel Edgerton. Though that isn't to say you wouldn't be able to find other stuff in this stuff. But going back to this, I have note here all of the stories that just recently broke about the new theory that universal dark matter might exist in a shadow or mirror or dark dimension within our own universe. Oh, before going forward, I almost forgot this one. This is Randy Newman, who released Dark Matter in 2017, talking about that Putin song that he wrote. It says, Putin might like it. When I finished the song, I realized it isn't that critical of him, Newman says. He doesn't come off that bad. It's like I'm part of the Trump administration. So Randy Newman, who wrote the Dark Matter album with the song Putin, has this quote, it's like I'm part of the Trump administration. There you go, right? They came out and told you, hey, this album is a part of the Trump administration. Also, before I get to the articles that I wanted to get to, there are all these stories about Black Lives Matter and Trump coming out right now as it relates to his 2024 presidential campaign. And I hope you see how black matter is dark matter, right? If you break down the words, really it's dark matter lives. It's kind of this idea about the dark matter and the dark energy having life-bringing power as it relates to their subconscious sorcery. Yeah, hopefully you can see the play on words there. And now you have Black Lives Matter leader endorsing Trump. Dark matter endorsing Trump, associating Trump together. It's like that Randy Newman quote. Probably not an accident that this is happening in the context of all this other stuff. But finally, getting to this note about the stories that have recently broke, coincidentally in this window of time. This is from March 6th, 2024, from The Economist. Physicists are reimagining dark matter. There might be new particles, forces, and perhaps even a dark Big Bang. A dark Big Bang! Oh, is that what Donald Trump is as well? Is he the dark Big Bang? Dark matter emits no light, and scientists only know it exists because when they look into the night sky, they see galaxies rotating a lot faster than they should. The laws of physics suggest that these galaxies should tear themselves to shreds at such colossal speeds. But astronomers do not see galaxies flying apart, which implies that there is a lot more stuff in them than can be observed in the form of stars, and therefore more gravitational force holding everything together. For decades, astronomers have been able to measure how dark matter behaves and can point to parts of the sky where it must exist. But what it actually is, that remains a mystery. The leading hypothesis, which goes by the name cold dark matter, suggests that dark matter is a fluid of particles that move sluggishly relative to the speed of light and interact with each other and everything else in the universe mainly through gravity. Physicists are gravitating towards a different theoretical framework known as self-interacting dark matter, which proposes the existence of a hidden universe of dark particles and dark forces that exists in parallel with the familiar particles and forces of normal matter. This dark universe could even have had its own dark Big Bang, a birth event that would have taken place sometime after the more familiar Big Bang that began the universe 14 billion years ago, or so they tell us. Dark matter may be a deformed mirror universe, scientists say. You know, dark matter, the mysterious stuff that most physicists now believe makes up the bulk of the universe, even though it remains completely undetectable except for its gravitational effects on regular matter. There's no shortage of far-out theories about the hypothetical material, that it's hiding inside an extra dimension, that it originated in a second Big Bang, that it's information itself, or even that it doesn't exist at all. Now, as spotted by Flatiron Institute astrophysicist and indefatigable science journalist Paul Stutter, a new paper offers yet another exotic potential explanation that dark matter resides in a deformed mirror universe inside of our own, where atoms failed to form. There's a new theory about where dark matter is hiding. This is from February 25th, 2024. Again, the point of getting into all of these articles is the coincidence that all of this is breaking news in science circles and physicist circles and everyone else who researches this type of thing right around the time before the second leg of the Great American Eclipse. in the context of the association now that we understand between dark matter and Donald Trump and these two eclipses. The idea of dark matter, in other words, is being put out there for everyone to think about and have at the back of their mind, or at least have in there somewhere. An idea derived from string theory suggests that dark matter is hidden in an as yet unseen extra dimension. And then this is from National Geographic from a while ago, where they have this simulation of dark matter distribution in the universe. And many people have gone into how this looks very similar to a neuron in the brain, and just in general how the brain is structured along those lines, which kind of gets at the idea of us in a scalar reality sense being inside the mind of God, as it were, or at least a scale down inside of something like that. And that's kind of what they mean by dark matter and dark energy. There's other pictures that I found kind of depicting the same idea. This is another one where you have all of the things that we can observe. The galaxies, the stars, all of the matter in that sense that makes up so much of a little portion of everything. In that way, it's really similar to the electromagnetic spectrum itself as it relates to colors. And we have that really small visible spectrum. And then you have all those other things like X-rays and gamma rays and all these things that our eyes don't perceive. And that's the idea of dark energy and dark matter. It's in a spectrum on that scale, cosmologically speaking, that our eyes can't perceive. And even our instruments can't perceive on that scale, because it's a different scale, right? Then you have from February 13th, 2024, dark matter detected dangling from the cosmic web for the first time. Dark matter indirectly detected in a cluster of thousands of galaxies could help scientists test theories of cosmic evolution. Just coincidentally, in February of this year, we have dark matter detected, allegedly, for the first time. Using a technique known as gravitational lensing, the team was able to detect the presence of dark matter even though we can't see it, further confirming a long-held theory about the superstructure of our universe. And then you have this article that came out in February as well, 2024. CERN scientists reveal plans for next generation particle collider to study dark matter. So hopefully you see the point here where we have all of these articles coming out about dark matter. Just a couple months before this, April 8th, 2024, Great American Eclipse. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. But very interesting, right? And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of videos talking about how this new device is going to destroy the world, things along those lines. That's always fun stuff that comes out. But getting back to this, Elon Musk replies to a tweet about dark matter, massively raising attention to it. The concept of dark matter, that is. And this is his tweet. Something is fundamentally, not slightly wrong with the dark matter theories. Dark energy is perhaps less dubious, but still not really understood. And then someone responded to him, actually, dark matter has been detected. Neutrinos qualify 100% as dark matter, massive particles that only interact via the weak force and not with light. The idea being, hey, just because we can't detect these things right now doesn't mean that they don't actually exist. We just aren't to the point where we have the capability to verify it. But that's all beside the point. The point is, Elon Musk, in the context of all this other stuff being put out there about dark matter in the press, comes out with this tweet on March 12th, or it was a reply, actually, to another. It was a reply to that dark matter cake analogy that I read earlier. Anyways, the important part is that he put this out there on March 12th, 2024, in the context of all these other articles that have been put out trying to promote the idea of dark matter and really get people thinking about it. And so I ask the question in the context of all of this other stuff, hey, is this a natural phenomenon that just happened by coincidence? Or is there some sort of coordinated agenda here to have dark matter in the news cycle, given its importance in relationship to Donald Trump and the ritual that they are conducting through him. And these two eclipses referred to as the Great American Eclipse. Meaning, dark matter or dark energy could be seen as a metaphor for the subliminal subconscious influence embedded into all media. Just like dark matter, it doesn't interact with ordinary matter, our five senses, but it is still affected by gravity, meaning we can observe its effects. In other words, you could view dark matter and dark energy as this subconscious subliminal programming that is embedded into all of this media and the films and everything else that's put out there in the news. It could be viewed as dark matter or dark energy. It affects us, even though we don't know it when we're under the spell of it, right? We can see the effects of it all around us. And in that context, we know it's real, but we are not able to see it in its true form. And in that way, it is invisible. Just like dark matter and dark energy currently are. And that is the true connection to Donald Trump, I think. He is the invisible dark energy or dark matter that is powering the ritual destruction, not only of America, but this whole old world order, as it were, right? As a symbol, he embodies everything that is destroying the old way. Look around the world right now. The credibility of all governments is at an all-time low, right? By design. The age of the nation state is over, and we're seeing everything around us reflect that. And people don't intuitively know it is happening on purpose. They see it and think it's just, oh, human beings are bad. This just naturally happens every time. Empires collapse, yada yada. In that context, Donald Trump is the twin of 9/11 in the sense that he is the symbolic dark matter that will reshape the entire world into the new world order. The ritual behind him is the dark energy that is powering it, the subconscious sorcery that is using our minds to create it. And in that sense, they're also creating a sort of parallel reality, a portal into another dimension. The Dark Tower, One World Trade Center, the metaphor of that, as created through Donald Trump in terms of the world system of governance. In that context, it's a metaphor for that which is in control of the world in general, right? That is dark matter and dark energy as well. We can see its effects all around us. We know it's there, but whoever's doing it might as well be invisible and not exist at all. We can't detect them, right? Because they're hidden behind so many shell corporations and frontmen that do the bidding on their behalf. And we have no idea who or what is really doing it in terms of the boots on the ground, right? I mean, we know the entity that's really behind it all. And Donald Trump is kind of the gate or the dark tower, the dark matter, dark energy that is allowing that dimension to come into being in this world. In the same way that 9/11 was sort of a portal into the reality that would allow Donald Trump to even come into existence in the first place. Because he was the conspiracy theorist president, so you had to have the 9/11 event for the conspiracy theorist underground scene to be built through Alex Jones so that he could take it mainstream and then produce the effects that we will see into the future along these lines. In other words, as I said at the beginning, Donald Trump is the symbolic dark matter invisible twin towers. He's the symbolic twin towers that are destroyed in that ritual, and everything emerges from the ashes of that. And I think all of the time travel, parallel reality, time dilation stuff really makes sense now, especially then when you add on all of the eclipse resonance that he has, being an eclipse baby himself, being the moonchild in that respect. Obviously, they coordinated him to be the president of the United States of America when these two total solar eclipses crossed each other in 2017 and 2024 because that amplified the ritual. It added more dark matter or dark energy to the ritual. More unseen power to it. So I don't know if I succeeded in explaining what I was thinking here, explaining my hypothesis. But hopefully I put this together in a way that at least makes sense, even if it is something that I'm just entirely making up. So that's it for now. Later.